The Lockwood family conference room hadn't changed since the late 90s. Same oak-paneled walls, same stiff-backed chairs, and that same glowering portrait of Great-Grandfather Lockwood looming overhead, like he could still veto us from the afterlife. I sat near the corner, quietly observing as my father paced like he still ran San Diego's tech corridor. Technically, he did. Lockwood Dynamics needs fresh blood, he announced, hands clasped behind his back. New capital, new leadership, a legacy that won't rot with time. Ryan, the eldest, adjusted his Rolex with practiced nonchalance. Brooke, the youngest, was half pretending to take notes while scrolling under the table. I sat still, hands resting on a closed folder. That's why, Dad continued, I'm offering up equity, family only, but I expect real investment. Minimum buy-in, $1 million. Ryan jumped in first. I've liquidated a couple properties. I'm in for $1. $5 million. Dad gave an approving nod. That's the spirit. Brooke chimed in. Cameron and I will match it. Crypto's been kind lately. Perfect. Ownership. Accountability, Dad said. Then came the silence. They all looked at me, Natalie Lockwood, the middle child, the one who left at 28 to find herself. I'd like to propose a supply chain modernization initiative, I said, voice calm. Dad raised a hand, cutting me off. Natalie, this isn't a strategy session. We need cash. What are you putting in? I met his gaze. I have about $900,000 liquid. Brooke snorted. That's barely a down payment around here. Ryan smirked. Maybe stick to your consulting gigs. This is grown-up money. Dad exhaled. We're talking serious capital, Natalie, not a freelance fund. I didn't mention the $60 million held under Lockwood Strategy, my firm registered quietly in Austin. Nor did I bring up the acquisition papers I'd just signed for Crane Tech Systems, Lockwood Dynamics' biggest competitor. Instead, I smiled. Thanks for the feedback. They wrote me off that day. 3 weeks later, Crane Tech's new CEO stepped in front of cameras and rebranded the company, Lockwood Stratagem Group. I imagined great-grandfather's portrait finally cracked a smile. I simply closed my folder and stood. Understood, I said. Thank you for the opportunity. Natalie, Dad called out as I reached the door. Maybe in a few years, when you've built something real. I left without replying. 2 weeks later, I was in my actual office, top floor, downtown Austin. Floor-to-ceiling glass wrapped the space. News tickers glided across my array of monitors. Breaking: Crane Tech Systems names Natalie Lockwood as new CEO and majority shareholder. I sipped my coffee and leaned back. Then the notifications began. Ryan. Brooke. A swarm of missed calls. Even my aunt, radio silent since I left San Diego, tried to reach me. I ignored them all. Instead, I pulled up the live feed from Lockwood Dynamics security system, outdated and unsecured, something I'd soon address more formally. But today, it had one perfect use. My father entered the lobby, coffee in hand, skimming his messages like it was any other Monday. Then the screen behind reception changed. Crane Tech Systems proudly welcomes Natalie Lockwood, CEO and majority shareholder. My headshot filled the frame. He froze. His coffee slipped and shattered against the marble. His face turned crimson, then white, then back again. He reached for his phone. I let it ring. I opened my laptop and drafted a concise message to the Crane executive team. Subject: Expansion Phase 1, launch today. As discussed, Phase 1 begins immediately. Target: Lockwood Dynamics semiconductor deal with Cobalt Advanced Manufacturing. Let's move decisively. They won't see us coming. Natalie Lockwood, CEO, Crane Tech Systems. I hit send, then swiveled my chair toward the skyline. Far in the distance, the Lockwood building still stood, proud, untouched, a monument I once dreamed of running. Now, I had something better. Leverage. A notification buzzed across my screen. Ryan, what the hell? Natalie? Crane Tech? Are you trying to take us down? I typed back. Me, no. Dear brother, I'm showing you what actual wealth looks like. I silenced my phone and rang my assistant. Jenna, notify PR, Phase 2 starts today. and get Cobalt's CEO on the line. Yes, Miss Lockwood. Also, your father's downstairs. He's being very persistent. I smiled. Remind security he's with a competing firm now. Meetings must be scheduled through proper channels. If he resists, take his photo. For the press release? We'll need it for the restraining order. I'll be filing one this afternoon. I stood, adjusting my navy blazer, the same one I'd worn to the family meeting 2 weeks ago. The one where no one noticed the woman who already had more wealth, power, and foresight than all of them combined. The office phone blinked. Jenna's voice came through. Cobalt's CEO is on line 1. I picked up the receiver, calm and crisp. James, Natalie Lockwood here. Let's discuss your future with Crane Tech Systems. Because the best revenge isn't just success, it's success they never saw coming. The next morning, Crane Tech stock opened 12% higher. Lockwood Dynamics dropped 8% before lunch. In my private conference room, numbers flickered across the wall of monitors as I reviewed the finalized Cobalt contract, now exclusively ours. A midnight negotiation. A single clause they never noticed. And just like that, Lockwood's semiconductor pipeline was ours. Miss Lockwood, Jenna's voice again. Your sister Brooke is here. No appointment. Refusing to leave. I smiled. Let her in. This should be fun. Brooke burst through the door in full Louis Vuitton rage. What the hell are you doing, Natalie? First Crane, now Cobalt? Are you trying to burn down everything Dad built? I gestured to the leather chair across from me. Please sit. You're making security nervous. Screw your security team. But she sat, smoothing her blouse with trembling hands. Ryan's spiraling. Dad hasn't left his office. Mom's crying about betrayal, about family. How poetic, I murmured, pulling up a document on my tablet. Let's talk about that Argus Circuits deal you and Ryan pushed last quarter. Brooke froze. How do you know about that? I know everything, I said, including the fact that Argus is 3 months from default, and that you tied Lockwood Dynamics to them, for personal kickbacks. Her face went pale. That's not true. I turned the tablet. Wire logs, offshore accounts, your initials, time-stamped, verified. You can't prove anything. I already did. Crane's forensic accounting division is thorough. A full report's being drafted for the SEC as we speak. Brooke stood abruptly. You wouldn't dare. I smiled. I warned you. I didn't just bring ideas to the table. I pressed the intercom. Jenna, please escort my sister out. Brooke's voice cracked. Natalie, please. But I'd already turned back toward the skyline. Some legacies are earned. Others are dismantled. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have known your worth, don't scroll. Stay tuned, because Natalie's just getting started. We're family, she whispered. I turned back, voice even. Was it family when you and Ryan told Dad I didn't belong in strategy meetings? When you laughed at my little consulting firm? When you dismissed me because I wasn't loud enough, rich enough, ruthless enough? She pushed to her feet, knocking the chair behind her. What do you want? Simple. Lockwood Dynamics cuts ties with Argus Circuits immediately. You and Ryan resign from the board, publicly. Personal reasons. Her jaw clenched. That's blackmail. No, Brooke, that's business. I didn't explain further. You have until 5 p.m. After that, the SEC gets everything. Dad will never agree. He won't have to. Crane now controls 30% of Lockwood's supplier network. I make one call, your assembly line goes dark tomorrow. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was. Maybe she didn't. I'm the sister you should have paid attention to. Then into the intercom, Jenna. Escort Miss Lockwood out, and send in the MA team. We've got work to do. After Brooke left, I opened an old photo, last Christmas. There I was, blurred in the back. Watching. Waiting. Planning. While they stood front and center, loud and smug. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. Ryan, whatever you're planning, stop, let's talk. I typed back. Me, like you talked about the Argus deal? Check your email, you've got 4 hours. Then I opened the file, Phase 3, the next step in Crane Tech's expansion. By the time the MA team entered, I'd already flagged 3 more Lockwood contracts for acquisition, including their overseas distribution pipeline. More dominoes, more leverage. Because this wasn't just revenge anymore. It was precision. It was proof. By 3:02 p.m. The tickers lit up. Breaking: Crane Tech acquires core supplier for Lockwood Dynamics. 40% of their component flow gone. On schedule, like clockwork. At that very moment, I knew my father was sipping his coffee. And probably dropping it again. Because the quiet ones don't stay quiet out of fear. We wait. We listen. And when we move, we don't miss. 4:58 p.m. 2 minutes to deadline. The board resignations arrived. Ryan first, then Brooke. Personal reasons. I forwarded them to legal. No commentary. Then came the call I'd been expecting. Natalie. My father's voice was tight, brittle. We need to talk. My office. Tomorrow, 9 sharp. Bring your mother. I ended the call without replying. That night, I sat in my penthouse, city lights glowing below. A full glass of wine untouched. I watched old family videos, not for nostalgia. For fuel. The Christmases where Brooke's designer bags took center stage and I unwrapped finance textbooks. The meetings where I raised my hand, only to be ignored. My valedictorian speech, given to a half-empty auditorium because Ryan had a dinner with an investor. I'd been invisible to them for years. Now, I was the shadow behind every deal, every lost contract, every boardroom shakeup. They taught me how to fight. I taught myself how to win. And I wasn't done yet. I never forgot. I archived everything. The overlooked Christmas mornings, Brooke unwrapping her 5th Louis Vuitton bag while I opened a finance textbook. The family meetings where I raised my hand, only to be talked over. My business school graduation, valedictorian. Everyone left early because Ryan had dinner with an investor. I used every slide as fuel. At 8:55 a.m., they arrived. Mom looked older, like stress had finally caught up. Dad had lost the swagger in his stride. He looked like a man collapsing under the weight of his own legacy. They sat across from me in the glass-walled suite, facing the skyline. Titans turned spectators. The Argus Circuits deal is dead, Dad said, his voice flat. Ryan and Brooke have resigned. Yes, I said, calm, I know. I picked up the remote and brought up the presentation. Let's talk about the future of Lockwood Dynamics. Our future? Mom whispered. Natalie, you're tearing this family apart. No, I said softly. I'm saving what's left of it. Slide 1, wire transfers, false invoices, internal emails, proof that Ryan and Brooke had been siphoning funds through shell contracts for years. Dad blinked. They wouldn't, we raised them better. I met his eyes. You raised them to value control over competence, influence over integrity, and you rewarded it. Slide after slide. The truth sank in. Fraud, misappropriation, kickbacks. Not one slip-up, 6 separate breaches. Why show us this? Mom asked. Why not let the authorities handle it? Because I still care about Granddad's legacy, I said, and I'm not here to burn it down, I'm here to rebuild it, properly. Dad's eyes narrowed. So what do you want? I clicked to the final slide. Crane Tech Systems plus Lockwood Dynamics equals Crane Lock Technologies. 1 banner, 1 leader, me. I'm offering a merger, fair stock conversion, job security for essential staff, a clean board with real oversight, no more nepotism. No more secrets. And if we say no? Dad asked quietly. Then tomorrow, this goes to the press and the SEC. Lockwood stock collapses, and your company becomes a cautionary tale. Mom began to cry. Dad just stared at the floor. I stood. You have until noon. I paused at the door. Oh, and I want the portrait. Mom blinked. The one from the boardroom? I nodded. He's watched you ignore me long enough. Time he had a better view. By 11:50 a.m., the documents were signed. By 1 p.m., it was everywhere. Historic merger, Crane Tech and Lockwood Dynamics unite under new leadership. That evening, as the maintenance crew hung Granddad's portrait behind my chair, 3 texts came in. Brooke, hope you're happy. You ruined everything. Ryan, this isn't over. Mom, we never really saw you. I'm sorry. I replied only to Mom. It's not about being seen anymore. It's about being heard. And now, the world's listening. 1 month later, I stood at the head of the new boardroom. The stock was up 40%. Our market share had doubled. Lockwood's old guard had vanished from the headlines. Then a knock at the door. My father's here, my assistant said. He asked to sit in, if you'll allow it. I thought for a beat. Put him in the back. He can watch. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. I entered the room, Granddad's portrait now behind me. Good morning, I said, voice clear, unwavering. Let's talk about the future. Not theirs. Not even mine. The one I built while no one was watching. They were right about one thing: business is about power and money. They just never expected me to have more of both. As I caught my father's gaze in the back row, I finally saw it, not doubt, not dismissal. Respect. Too little. Too late. But exactly what I'd been building toward all along.